So good evening, everyone. My name is Mazi Ezoke. Welcome to today's evening conversation as a people of the Southern Nigeria. This evening, we will be talking about the anti-open grazing law in South and Middle Belt of Nigeria. Some have said it's a debate, some say it's a conversation, but be it debate, conversation, review of the draft bill by various state assemblies, we will see as this conversation this evening progresses. To have this conversation, I have eminent personalities across Southern Nigeria in this room this evening. I will have the privilege to have Dr. Uche Eziyi, who is based in the United States of America. Part of the panelists also will be a man you all know very well on this platform in the last couple of weeks. Many of you have written me to say you enjoyed my conversation with him, and that is Professor Chidi Osuagu, who is a global Igbo leader. We have here as well Dr. Tony Mwadai, Anioma Redemption Group. That's the group he's representing. And we also have Max Ozaka Esquire, Alibo Development Foundation. We also have in our midst from the Southwest, Dr. Akin Fapuhunda, who is representing the Afanifere. Again, you all know her. I call her the Amazon of the Niger Delta, my sister from the Creeks. Thank you, Briggs. She is a human rights and even environmental rights activist. I also have in our midst Austin Okeke Esquire, here representing Igbo Board of Deputies. The last but not the least is Chief Emeka Diwe, who is the president, Association of Southeastern Town Union, ASATU. Ladies and gentlemen, I will say let the debate or let the conversation begin. Join me to welcome first Dr. Uche Eziyi to open the floor and lay the foundation and the boundaries of this conversation. I would give Uche Eziyi at least about 10 minutes to help lay this foundation, after which each speaker will be allotted 5 minutes for their intervention. My brother, you're welcome to this conversation. You may now unmute yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my brother. Well, you've actually said it quite well regarding this law, the anti-open grazing bill. In a nutshell, the anti-grazing, open grazing law actually seeks to grind to a halt or put to a stop the numerous violent clashes that we have perceived so far between the cattle herdsmen and the farmers in Nigeria. Now, what I'm actually going to try to do now is to read some excerpts from, I would say, hybridization of the law that was passed by Benue State and also passed by Abia State, but yet to be signed, okay? And that should actually give some insight to what these laws, these bills actually contain. So main objective really is to prevent the destruction of crop farms, community ponds, settlements, communities, and any property or assets of people the state has by open grazing of livestock, okay? One of the key objectives of the anti-open grazing law bill actually is to prevent clashes between livestock owners, the herders, managers, community members, farmers, and crop owners. Protecting the environment from degradation, pollution caused by open rearing, open grazing of livestock, and optimization of the use of land resources in face of overstretched and diminishing land area and increasing population. Another key objective is to prevent, control, and manage the spread of diseases, as well as the ease of implementation of policies that enhances the production of high quality and healthy livestock for local and international markets, creating a conducive environment for large-scale crop and animal productions. See, the livestock department of Ministry of Agriculture and Natural Resources is also vested with the powers, right, to administer, to regulate, to control livestock and practice livestock management in the state. And the department also shall be subject to the approval of the governor, issue or cause to be issued permits to graze livestock on ranches to state indigents, legal residents, and other livestock owners who are qualified, entitled, and approved to set up, own, or manage ranches upon the annual payment of a permit fee as fixed or determined from time to time by the department. And that's provided that ranching permits shall be issued to citizens of Nigeria only who are authorized to conduct business under the law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Preference ought to be given in issuance of ranching permits to individuals or group of individuals that are within or near a district or community who is or are landowners, land leaseholders or owners that are interested in livestock business. Permits shall also be for a period of time not more than 1 year, and a period that's also stipulated, or a period that's actually stipulated by the department with renewal subject to the discretion of the department. And the department should also reduce or refund in whole or part, postpone payment of ranching permits in case where we have experienced natural emergencies such as drought or flooding or epidemics or any other force majeure situations or conditions. Now, the rancher shall in writing now approach the owner and the family head of the land which he or she requires as a ranch in accordance with the provision of this law. Upon being approached by a rancher, ranch owner, potential ranch owner, or representative of any of the above, the landowner or the head of the family where the land is situated or located, and after due consultation with the community leaders, with the endorsement of kindred heads and chairman of the relevant local government traditional council, shall grant his consent in writing for 1 year lease on such terms and conditions as the parties shall agree upon. Now, see, the law that's actually put in place for the anti-open grazing is in part to protect landowners and also to protect herders. So this is more like gearing towards a position of pro ranching as opposed to an open grazing where we end up, finding situations that lead to the violent clashes that we have seen all these years, in Nigeria. Now, any indigent of states who wishes to set up personal ranch on his or her own land shall be exempted from the provisions of Section 5, Section 6, 7, 8, and 9 of the bills that have been passed, for example, in Benue State and Abia State and some other southern states that have recently passed the bills. Okay. Now, as far as the authority to revoke the bill, it's also within the department at any time subject to approval of the governor without the payment of compensation to the rancher for any or a combination of the following reasons, such as a breach of state security, interest of peace, breach of any term or condition of the leasehold, any inaccurate information or document based on which the approval may have been given, overriding public interest as stipulated under the Land Use Act. These are actually areas where this permits provided to the rancher can then be revoked, right? And that actually puts the state, puts individuals in position where peace is actually fostered and violent clashes can further be mitigated. So apart from the rancher and his staff, no other person other than a government official on duty to inspect shall enter into any ranch unless he or she is authorized to do so by this law or regulations made thereunder. And no person shall alienate any right affecting land in a ranch which has been established in accordance with this law by sale, transfer, mortgage, unless in accordance with the provision of the Land Use Act requiring the prior consent of the governor. Now, in cases where there are temporary structures or other improvements for the management of permitted livestock that may be constructed within the ranch under the issued permits or cooperation agreements approved by the department. However, No permit entitles a rancher to use improvements constructed and owned by a previous occupant until the applicant has paid the previous occupant the reasonable value of the improvements as may be determined under the department's regulation. The department will then work to promote cooperation among those interested in the use of the ranches, such as livestock owners, the state land officials, other officials of local, state, federal, international agencies engaged in the conservation or propagation of livestock. The department will also create awareness among the public through seminars, symposia, advertisements, commercial viability of livestock farming and production. Develop and maintain a feasible and sustainable livestock production industry in the state. Develop an integrated modern livestock development, production, and management plan and strategy for the state. Develop guidelines for the implementation of an integrated livestock production policy and make appropriate recommendations to the governor. Now, the department also would reserve the right to conduct or cause to be conducted, research as it deems necessary. And research could be geared towards production of livestock and operation of ranches as may be conceived by parties interested. Now, no individual or group shall, after the commencement of this law, engage in open nomadic livestock herding or grazing in the state outside the permitted ranches. And any person or group of persons who contravene subsection 1 of the above bill statements passed shall be guilty of an offense and shall, on conviction, be liable to 5 years of imprisonment or 1 million naira fine or both. And where such a contravention causes damage to farms, crops, property of any person, the owner or manager of such livestock, after evaluation of the damage by the department, shall be the prevailing value of monetary compensation of the farm, crop, or property so damaged to the owner. Injury to any persons within the state, the owner, manager of such livestock shall be guilty of an offense, upon conviction, be liable to 2 years imprisonment, in addition to footing the medical bills of the victim and paying relevant compensation as any court or competent jurisdiction may determine. Where such contravention causes death of any person within the state, the owner or manager of such livestock shall be guilty of an offense of culpable homicide punishable under the criminal code laws of the state. Now, movement of livestock on foot from one destination to another in the state is also hereby prohibited. Such movement shall be permitted only if by rail, wagon, truck, pickup truck on the road. And any person found moving livestock on foot into or within or across the state, urban centers, rural settlements, or any part of the state commits an offense and is liable on conviction for a first-time offender, 500,000 naira or 1 year imprisonment or both. A second-time offender, about 1 million naira fine or 3 years imprisonment or both. Now, livestock owners, managers, and ranchers shall not possess firearms licensed or unlicensed on the ranch or outside the ranch. Any livestock owner, rancher, manager, or agent who possesses or owns firearms or arms shall be prosecuted under the Robbery and Firearms Special Provision Act. Any person who illegally grabs land for the purpose of residence, grazing, or ranching, or other purposes connected thereto shall be guilty of an offense punishable by law. Where there is loss of life, the illegal land grabber or offender shall be arrested and prosecuted for culpable homicide as stipulated under the criminal code. All ranch owners, ranchers, ranch managers, operators may engage the services of registered security guards or agents for the protection of their ranches. Now, you see, a bill like this passed, one just can't help but see how that would actually go a long way to fostering the peace and eliminating the violent clashes that we see between the cattle herdsmen and farmers in Nigeria. Well, thank you very much. And thoughts, questions?
So thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. Now, that's have laid the foundation for further intervention. I don't think, obviously, we would take questions, but that question would be at the end. Now, I think I have Professor Chidi Osuagu here. Professor Chidi Osuagu, if you may kindly and quickly, obviously, unmute yourself and make your intervention, then we take it from there. Prof, you can unmute yourself. 5 minutes, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we have to understand and agree on what the law is about. This anti-open grazing law. Well, while we have been having crisis of what can be more appropriately called Fulani bovine imperialism. Fulani using cattle as a weapon of imperialism. And this has led to more death in the Middle Belt, and now backed by the federal government of Nigeria under Fulani control, is aggressively trying to seize land all over the country. Knowing that that is not feasible, the governors of the southern Nigeria met in Asaba and resolved to make laws to stop that process. We should be very clear on this. It is a crisis. It is a crisis of Fulani bovine imperialism. An impossibility which unfortunately the present federal government thinks they can carry out. And we have to go back to the land use decree. What made the land use decree possible? Because what the land use decree basically did was to uproot the indigenous people, the autochthonous people of Nigeria from their land. Who were behind it? Those that made recommendations during the 1979 Constitution did not recommend that law. Obasanjo and his northern friends put it there. Why did they do it? One, Obasanjo comes from Owu clan, the champion slave catcher clan of the Yoruba during the slave trade. And they were in 1829 erased from Odilo, their homestead. So they are refugees wherever they are. The Olulayers at Ibadan, the Obasanjos in Oweba, and all over. And when he had the opportunity, he thought to uproot the rest of the autochthonous indigenous people from their land. That's the original land use decree. It was uncalled for. Because during the First Republic, there was development all over Nigeria. People were donating their land. There was no crisis of land acquisition, except that some people who had lost their own land for historical crimes decided to uproot others. Then here we are. The Fulani, who are the champion slave catchers of West Africa, are embattled across West Africa. In Guinea, they are the plurality. But because of historical crimes against the indigenous, they will not be allowed to come to power. In Mali, the same thing. Central Africa, they are embattled all over. And the present Nigerian government thinks that they can solve this problem by uprooting the indigenous people of Nigeria and taking their land. Of course, that's a pipe dream. It's not possible. But they are trying. And this is the origin of this confusion. It is important that we keep this in mind. Then finally, globally, what is the attitude to cattle rearing as a whole, whether it is ranching or open grazing or something? It is discovered that cattle is the worst producer, except for the petroleum industry, of methane, the very worst gas that causes global warming. And in countries like Australia, where they have gone into ranching, in the United States, where they are into ranching, and take note that the first cowboys in America, we are Fulani, but now those people have gone into ranching, and because they're in ranches, they can now feed their cows diet that does not produce methane, which is a global warming gas. And this is the issue that those in power in Nigeria are not taking into consideration, that they have a battle with the world, with global warming and so on. Instead of looking for practical solutions, finding ranches where convenient and feeding appropriate this not to produce methane, they can use the might of federal Nigeria to displace the small people and ignorant people from their land. It's not possible, but they are creating problems. This is the issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Dan. Thank you for stating the facts that is well known. And obviously, I like that analogy and the example you gave with the United States of America. Now, I'm going to get up the second person here. We obviously will move towards the southwest of Nigeria, just to strike a balance here. I do not know if Dr. Akin is here. Dr. Akin, are you here? Quickly. Dr. Akin, no. Okay, so, let's again strike this balance here. Our friend from the Southwest probably hasn't joined us, but let me get in anchor brakes. If you're ready, can you kindly turn on your camera and speak to us? Please, let's be conscious of the time, 5 minutes. We have a digital timer, 30 seconds before your time elapses, comes on your screen to tell you that your time is up, so that it helps you to round up. Thank you very much. And you may now have the podium for the virtual lecture. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Number one, Wike, that is my governor, Governor Wike, has signed into law not just the open rearing and grazing prohibition law today or yesterday or today, but he has done it, and he has also
bravo.
He has also signed another one that I think actually all the other governors should also follow suit. It's called the Residence Registration Agency Law, which means that whether you're a Rivers indigene or you're an Anambra indigene or Katsina indigene, that if you're living in Rivers State, you must register as whoever you are living in Rivers State. And by so doing, you will obviously also be able to put down what you are doing. So I believe that in the kind of Nigeria that we are in today, that has become very necessary for our very survival. Nigeria is a country that claims to be a federation, but for as long as I can remember, as a little girl, going back to before independence, and at independence and during the what led up to the war and all of that. I've always believed that Nigeria may claim to be a federation, but it is actually being ruled in a unitary manner. So having come to that conclusion, the next thing I want to contribute here, based on what is going on in our country and what we are enduring, is very simply this. It is most important for our survival that we, if you're a Yoruba man, if you're a TV man, if you're an Igbo man, if you are an Ijaw person, you first of all recognize who you are and accept that as a fact before Nigeria. For me, it is not about the country that we have accepted the deceit for a very long time that we are Nigeria. We're not Nigeria. That is my take on it. And it is on that basis that I do what I do on behalf of my people and myself. I will not key into the idea that Nigeria as a country is not negotiable. Nigeria is very much negotiable because we never negotiated ourselves into Nigeria as we have it today. It was determined by one of my mother's people, Lugard, that we are Nigerians. Being part British and part Nigerian, but also very much Ijaw, I definitely will key into the idea that it is very important that we first of all survive as the people that we are. Now, the people that have created the problems that we're facing today, and I do not agree, mind you, that what has been happening that led to this anti-grazing law is clash between headsmen and farmers. It is not. It is pure and simple what has taken place in Afghanistan. It is taken over by force and forcing an ideology, a religion, a way of life, a type of reasoning on somebody else, because that is what you want for yourself. I do not accept that. On the other hand, if we are to survive as a people, and I did go through the Civil War, so I know what I'm talking about. I was a teenager when the Civil War started. I was a refugee from Rivers State in Mbaise during the Civil War, so I know what I'm talking about. There are some people here that were not born at the Civil War. So what I have to say about the Civil War in the future and in the past has been my own personal experience of the Civil War, because I was not a kid. I was in secondary school. And having all of these things in mind, I've decided a few days ago that no longer the issue of agitating, being an agitator, being an activist, or finding solution for the problem of Nigeria. As an Ijaw daughter, as a Niger Delta indigene, it is no longer my responsibility as a person, nor do I expect my people to take it as a responsibility. And I do not object to anybody else who wants to take it as a responsibility, that it is either Nigeria or nothing for them. Well, it's easy when you live in America or you live in London to say Nigeria must stay together. When you live in Nigeria, you begin to doubt that ideology and that concept. Okay, so that's it. I've seen my my 6 seconds coming up. Maybe if I have opportunity, I will continue where I left off. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Obviously, you've seen the digital timer. Your time was up. But, you know, I take 2 key elements or 2 key points here. One is to say, on behalf of everyone and on behalf of the Southern Nigerians, to say thank you and bravo to the Some of you refer to him as the action governor, but at least at the state assembly, we must note that the Rivers Assembly has done the needful, actually. It's sadly that, this is what they are there to do. And again, they have delivered on that. And secondly, you've put us here on notice. It's no longer your duty to say which way should Nigeria go. Nigeria should be, will be governed. That you've taken a backseat on that. Rather, let those who have been saying no for so long be the one now to say this is what we think should happen. Thank you very much once more for that intervention. Now, I think I would, at this point, want to bring in Max Ozaka, but I think Esquire. I've looked here, I do not see him. Austin, Max, if you're here, you may quickly use the digital hand to indicate that you're here, but unless you joined in with a different name or a different device name. But in the absence of that, Dr. Tony Wade, is he here? If Dr. Tony is here, he can also take the podium. Tony, are you here? I don't think, Dr. Tony? Well, at that point, I also understand that we have Chief Emeka Diwe here, the President Association of Southeastern Union, because this group, the Association of Southeastern Union, is very critical in this matter under discourse. But before I get him in, I would want to bring in Austin Okeke Esquire to basically, Austin, remember, 5 minutes, you make your intervention. Then I'll get in Chief Diwe to come in and make his intervention as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I welcome you all. I will just be quick. My area of concern is in the enforcement mechanism of the bill, now law in some states. And kudos to all the governors that have signed them into law. If we go to paragraph 24, 25, 26, and further down, we will see that there's a special livestock open grazing prohibition task force, which we just call task force. And this will comprise of the usual suspects. You will see that there's a chairperson of special advisor to the government on security, will be the chairperson of the task force. You now have the state chairman of the community volunteers guard. We are talking about now the vigilante, a representative of the state commissioner of police, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, state director of DSS, state chairman of Nigerian Legion, the X-Men, a representative of the State Council of Traditional Rulers. Then you now have a commissioner for Agric, a representative from there. Going further down, I was thinking we should, in the process, create employment. I know in some countries you have rangers, forest rangers, that do that. And I was thinking we should leave out the usual suspects. They already have their job and their salary. In the process, we create employment because it is needed in Nigeria. And if that can be looked into, it will be a good thing for acceptance by the community. I will stop now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That was very apt and straight to the point, I must note. Now, the point you have raised, I think, as we say in Igbo, I hope we all are taking notes so that to come to that point where these questions, because we'll have Q&A, where the gray areas will be highlighted and those who know better would try to speak to issue. Again, it's not a solution shop. What we are here to do is to rub mind and enlighten ourselves and the public watching us. Globally, people are watching us. I mean, people who've asked why these things are done. This is why I say, well, that's what makes us different, because we are a people that believe in speaking and in speaking and in dialoguing. Now, I think if Chief Emeka Diwe is ready, you can quickly please turn on your camera. I can see he's in the room, but if you can quickly turn on your camera and speak to the issue, then that will be fine, please. Chief Emeka Diwe, please. Chief Emeka Diwe, are you able to do that? Do we now have Tony Nwadian? Tony is, okay, yeah, Tony is here. Anthony, please, Anthony, if you may quickly, because I don't think that Chief Diwe is ready. You can now come in, and please remember 5 minutes to make your intervention. If you make it less, even better. Anthony, kindly unmute yourself. Go ahead now.
Hello? Yeah.
No,
yeah, okay. Yeah, what I'd like to say it's, yeah, the bill, law in some of the states now, I think it's quite robust. I see the structure is strong enough. The challenge is not just putting the law in place, but it to be in ensuring that it works as intended. A very strong player in the whole thing will be what is called the Department of Livestock in the Ministry of Agriculture and Natural Resources. That department is very key, because that's the department that will be the key player that would ensure that the law acts as it should act. And I think it also needs to be understood that the purpose, if you go through the objective of the law, it is not just to stop open grazing, but also responsibilities have been assigned to various parties to ensure that value is brought to the stakeholders. Not just stopping open grazing, but to ensure that the quality of livestock management improves and that value is created for the end user. I think for those that are particularly against the bill and the law in some cases, what they need to do is sit back, or maybe there needs to be a bit more engagement to bring parties that even have contrary opinions, so they see the good aspect of the law, that it's not just aimed at stopping people from doing what they like, what they would want to do, even if it's not in the best interest of the state, but also to see that it has potential to contribute generally to enhancing the society. I think that's what I'd like to say for now, while I listen to the rest of the panelists.
Thank you very much. I think I am beginning to, please, Anthony, if you may ensure that your camera is somewhat either locked, because at some point, in order to focus and listen to you, I can see some people bending their head as if they are in a bending corner, because you keep rotating somewhat. Okay.
Well, maybe
now it's better, but it was.
Yeah, maybe you are okay. Maybe you are seeing my head. Maybe I was bent or something.
Yes. So, but it's fine now. Thank you very much for that intervention. So let me see if Chief Emeka Diwe, if Diwe is ready now. Emeka Diwe. If not, okay, I think yes, he's now on. Go ahead now.
Yeah, good evening, everybody.
Good
I just
evening.
have a very few contribution to make, and it's on the uniformity of the laws. I think that the laws, the anti-open grazing laws, need to be uniform across the states that are enacting such laws. Otherwise, that could be partial implementation of the laws. Secondly, the implementation of such laws need to be emphasized. Right now, some states have those laws in place, yet we see cows being flocked around on foot, and nothing is being done. We feed these things because we're in the grassroots. So these two areas are the sensitive areas I want to make my contribution on. Uniformity of the law across the states that have so decided, to promulgate such laws. Secondly, the implementation, enforcement of the law is very key. Otherwise, it wouldn't make any sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much once more. I think, honestly, I must thank all of you for really going straight to the point without beating about the bush, allowing us enough time to eventually get into the Q&A. Now, I do have two more people to make their interventions. I hope that they are here now. If they are, let me quickly know. We've heard from Augustine and Austin and Chief Emeka Diwe. Now, do we have Max Ozaka Esquire and Akin Fapohunda? Are they here from Alibo Development Foundation and the Afanifere group? Do we have Dr. Akin? Are you here? Dr. Akin is not here, and Ozaka is not here. So on that note, what will then happen now is we have a couple of questions and suggestions that have been made. I don't know how we want to take these questions. Obviously, like the last 2 points raised by Chief Diwe, where he talked about the uniformity of the laws and the elephant in the room, which is enforcement. At the end of the day, if you're mixing drug for the sick and there is no one to hold the sick down, that the sick gets the drug taken, we might be wasting time at the chemist shop. Permit me now at this point for this question and maybe other Ones to bring back, Dr. Chidi, Dr. Uche Ezi, Dr. Uche, please. If you may come back again, obviously, as it appears, you have a greater understanding of the bill. If you may speak to the uniformity, my understanding is, for instance, that the anti-grazing bill that was passed in Benue is nothing different from what the one currently sitting at the House of Assembly in Umuahia. So one would be expecting that by 2 weeks' time, 1st of September, when the deadline the governors, the executives of the southern states have given themselves, that at that point, everything will be ready. So if you may, Dr. Uche Ezi, please, can you speak to that point? Are we likely to expect and see uniformity? And what is, if you know, you may tell us, the plans for enforcement here, knowing that we do not have state police at the moment. Maybe, as Austin said before, I think the the vigilantes actually might be the enforcers. We do not know, but if you can speak to that issue, that would be very helpful. Thank you very much.
Yes, very good points and good questions actually raised. Yeah, to some extent, there's some uniformity in the laws that's actually been passed on this anti-open grazing across states. And I actually want to also acknowledge the person who did mention that states are different, terrains might be different. So I can't really speak so much on other states, on all the states that have actually passed the law, as I have not read each and individual state, but what I shared was excerpts, from Benue State, Abia State, and when you really look at those, you find a lot of similarity there, and I presume that you'll find the same, in other southern states within Nigeria. Now, as far as enforcement goes, yeah, that is an area of challenge, really. As you did mention, using your example here that if you have a sick person and you're busy mixing drugs and you don't have someone to hold down the sick person to administer the drugs, you're basically wasting time. And I think I'm afraid that might be the case if we don't have a way to, cause enforcement. I mean, we have stipulations here as to what the person who is found to break this law, fine, you have to pay, years of imprisonment and things of that nature. But if you didn't have someone really to enforce the law, then you end up just having nothing, right? Just as good as nothing there. So this is really where we have to focus on. And maybe the idea here is to now borrow the thoughts laid by Dr. Tony, where he did mention that it would be good to have just some job creation. Actually, that was Dr. Okeke did mention. Austin. Yeah, job creation, right? So in this case, we don't necessarily have to use the status quo or like someone already mentioned, the usual suspects. We can have a new job creation here, a new task force whose job is to ensure the enforcement of the anti-open grazing law.
Okay, thank you very much for that intervention. You see, anyone that has question, please kindly use the digital device, hand raising thing to raise your hand. Now, having said that, to reinforce what my good brother Dr. there said, it's before we start looking at something out of this world, there are basic things that sometimes do help. We all hear and remembered during the time of Ayo Fayose how he used the local hunters to enforce the law. So, not something extraordinary, but he kind of, many people laughed at that point, but it worked. At the end of the day, they say, whatever you have, you make do with it. And at the end of the day, what people want is result. Are they getting value for this law? So I don't know if we do have, if you have questions or interventions that shouldn't be more than 2 minutes, kindly please raise your hand so that, at this point, if you have questions, clarifications, raise your hand, please, so we can call you. So now I have Obueshi Deli Ajufo, Elder. Kindly unmute yourself, please.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm glad that Tony came eventually. I was worried because he was representing Anyoma position on this stand, except that he failed to add one, that we have succeeded in going through second reading in Anyoma. And hopefully in the next week or so, it must be passed. But my concern is that we're making too much noise. I'll have to call you and tell you why some people feel indifferent to this hearing today. Why are we making so much noise about this anti-grazing? How much noise did Hisba make to pass their law to break our bottles of beers in Kano and elsewhere? Can we form an association and demand land for piggery in the north? Dr. Swagu said it. This is pure land grabbing. And please let us grab land in the north. I'm ready to form association with like minds. Let's write to the governors of the northern states to give us land for piggery. Thank you very much, Mazi.
Thank you very much. I think you bring your business proposition here. You might have a partner if maybe ducks and piggeries as well. So if that will help, but that's fine, obviously. But Elder Dele Ajufo, before I let you go, you said that Anyama has, debated it. Are you by Anyama? Do you mean Delta states? Let's get that clarity.
Sorry, my dear, Delta states. It's gone through second reading. In fact, before I came to the meeting, I was onto the chief whip of Delta State House of Assembly, and we are assured that it will be passed very soon. We hope to. Some of us who are members of Anyama Redemption Group are propping this thing up. We're very concerned because we know the problem associated with land grabbing, and we don't have the people to defend us. But we'll make our own point eventually. Maybe like you said, I'll talk to you about creating pig farm in the north. Good business for us.
Thank you very much. So now you see that Delta it's doing the needful, and Ajufo here, that actually answers your first question. Why are we discussing it? The reason why we are discussing it is that we are a people that's governed by law, Republican mostly in nature, that believe in the act of conversation. So no one could come to us and wake up and do probably, this is it, take it. People will kick. So, and in order to avoid that kick, and part of this conversation this evening, one thing he's doing is also subtle and psychological boost, and also subtle reminder that there are an array of people actually watching, noting that what is going to happen after the first, state A, state C hasn't done so, then there might be consequences that the people will start, either doing one thing or the other, asking questions, why are we not where our siblings and brothers are? So let me take Silas Moneke. Silas, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mazi Ezoke. I thank all of the speakers. The contributions are well in order. And I would say that I buy the idea or the information that says those that are marching their cows down to our area are not just coming for grazing. They have other intentions. And if that is the case, if that is underlined, then we can then go back to what my brother Austin Okeke said, implementation. And that implementation is where we are all worried about based on what we are saying now. Therefore, I think the conversation would continue beyond here. But I would say, if their intention is not about grazing, which is very clear because the type of vegetation you have in the south is not mostly grass or savanna as it is. So, and they are very forceful in their approach. The law enforcement agents in Nigeria or the security forces are somehow in that business. There was a case where a DSS deputy commander gave a narrative where they found that some of the headers were actually working for some military men and settlements where we have camps in Nigeria. The lands that are given to them for a range shooting or range where they go and practice, they often lease that out to headers and then buy into that business. So what I'm trying to point out here Who are those that would enforce these laws? If they are part of the business, you can see conflict of interest. And going forward, that will be the issues that we're going to face. So what I'm trying to point out is areas that might be important when we are planning about enforcement. That is one side of it. Now, the other side that I want to mention is the resistance that we're going to get. I will use examples. When Oyo was boiling because of headers that were in the bush and they had conflict with Igboho's people and all that, we saw how the presidency reacted when unauthorized people were occupying the bush and they were told to leave. The presidency even came out and said, Nigeria is free for all. Anybody can be anywhere. So enforcement then goes back to the law enforcement people in Nigeria. When I say this, I mean the police, the DSS, the military, and whoever that they use. So these are the things we, the Southerners, should start planning. How is this going to happen? How are we going to make it happen? One more example I will give you before is Ihedoha, the short-time governor of Imo State, had a case where headers case were brought to his table. When he summoned people to resolve the issue, most of the service chiefs that attended were all Fulanese, and the people whose cases were brought to him were all Fulanese, and he couldn't say anything. In fact, it was part of the undercurrent that made him unpopular before those who assign power to people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much again for that intervention. I think one area that, obviously you make an excellent point here. One area that has always been a sticking point is that most times, we do not take cognizance of the fact that those who are to protect lives and properties in the persons of the security top ranks, that they are also headers. And also to add that we are also headers. When I say this, I mean that you see that there are a lot of our brothers and our sisters who also own a lot of these. Many of us know, and that is a fact. Therefore, to how you started is not a case, those who kind of see this as something being done against certain people, I think that's really and grossly misinformed, because we have people of Southern Nigeria who are men and women of means who also own large heads as well. So it's not a South divide. So I do not know if any other person has any question before we quickly move on and before we start rounding up. Any other further questions? Okay, I have Reverend Ambassador Paul Ndukwe. Can you unmute yourself? Reverend Ambassador Paul Ndukwe, can you unmute yourself, please, sir?
Yeah, I've unmuted myself.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you so very much. I wouldn't take time. I again want to commend the panelists and also commend you for what you're doing. My concern, though, is based on what the last speaker, that's a big concern. There must be a policy. I'm going through the documents and correct me, Dr. Uche, if I'm wrong. I couldn't see anything about anti-corruption policy. When you put an anti-corruption policy, it must affect the special task force. Because if you look at the number of the people on the special task force, you discover that all of them are foreigners to the landowners. Okay. And again, that's boils down to is one thing to make a law. It's another thing to implement it. And again, to implement that law, if you don't have the people that own the land, the residents of that place, to be the people on the task force, it seems that the law is already dead on arrival. Because you have DSS. Who are the DSS? Who are the civil defense, the commissioner of police representative in all the Igbo or the southern states. They are all foreigners. If I use the word foreigners, please permit me do that. So we make a law. I'm an ambassador, so I know what I'm talking. We make a law, and we're not involved in the implementation of, in the securing of that law. The task force is already eroding corruption. It's already corrupted. The task force is a biased task force, and we must have to look into it and change it, or else we're not heading anywhere. That's all I want to say.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. So, Uche, if I bring you back again, I mean, maybe to speak to this, it comes back to that same comes back to the enforcement that was alluded to before. Now, I do not know if anybody here have seen any of the laws from this state, from southern Nigeria, that have actually passed it into law. I don't know that section that talks about enforcement, the contents therein. So I don't know, Uche, if you have seen any, if, you know, again, if you may speak to the fears expressed by Reverend Ambassador Paul Ndukwe.
Okay.
You have the podium. Thank you.
Okay, so I would like to clarify a really good point raised as well. Now this law we're talking about actually, let me read this paragraph 6 here, section 2 of it. It says, upon being approached by a rancher, a ranch owner, potential ranch owner or representative of any of the above, the landowner and the head of the family where the land is situated or located, and after due consultation with the community leaders and with endorsement of kindred head and the chairman of the relevant local government traditional council, shall grant his consent in writing for a 1-year lease on such terms and conditions as the parties shall agree upon. So in other words, you can't just walk up to the DSS or you know somebody who knows somebody somewhere in the government and then you get a permit and walk away. You know, there has to be that consultation with the local, the kindreds, family heads, you know, the people who actually own the land, you know, prior to having a permit issued to you. And even at that, having a permit doesn't actually give one entitlement to ownership of the land. It's a 1-year lease program, and is also not guaranteed that this is also going to be renewed the following year. Of course, there are some provision that account for you to make sure that you actually keep to the laws and requirements actually given, of which if you fail them, then you put yourself in a bad position to have those renewed. But I'm at the same time not undermining the impact of corruption as well. Of course, we all do know that whenever you have a case of corruption, that that really doesn't help, regardless of how much law you have. But reality is, we have made these provisions here such a way that you know, again, an individual just can't walk up to any government official and have the permits granted to them and then walk up to your land and you know, start ranching over there, right? So there has to be those level of consultation and community persons engaged before that can actually happen. And it has to also be in agreement with the landowners there.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, to the point that the doctor just noted here, please, you know, I think it's good you clarified it, because it's, you know, if it comes to a point of leasing, it's only 1 year max, then you renew. Now, we are only talking about where there is, you know, or rather the point is only talking about where there is intention to lease. And I'm glad that the process is stringent enough That means if my kindred says, no, we don't want ranch, then we don't want ranch, and basta, everybody goes home. Now, the bigger part of that cake is we don't want cows to move on foot. That is the key element of that law. Cows should not be on the street. If you want to move them from Omaha to Oka, rent a lorry, a trailer or whatever, and move them. Want to move them from Sokoto to Akigwe, the same applies. So it doesn't matter if these cows are owned by Mazezoke because I am, I'm doing a burial as was done in Oba, and I need to give my friend 50 cows. Therefore, they will match the street of Okigwe and destroy farmlands on the way. No, it doesn't matter if it's Mazi from Anambra State or you from Imo State. The key essence and the key element is, irrespective of where you are coming from in the federation, this law prohibits the movement of cows, or rather animals, could be, on foot. That's all. It's no discussion. It's, therefore, because again, as we speak today, even after the law is passed, after 1st of September, it doesn't stop going to Amobia and buying cows, or going to Oka or other areas and buying cows. Of course, these markets are still there. But it's just about the movement that causes trouble, and which in numerous of my programs that I do argue, personally, there is nothing like headers farmers clash. It's just a fluke. All that is there is headers invasion of farmland, because farmers have fixed assets. It doesn't move. It's someone who is, cuckooed upstairs, takes, animals and destroys somebody's land. Well, let's just hope things turn out, eventually, as we are all discussing and informing and enlightening ourselves and the audience. I do have one more question. Talking Point Radio. You are now on. Your question or your intervention, Talking Point Radio. Make it quick. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mazi Ezoke, for allowing me to talk in this particular program. And I hope I'm coming out clear, really.
You're coming out clear, but sadly, I did an exception to allow, obviously, we turn your camera on and tell us your name, please.
Okay, would you mind if I don't turn on my camera? Do you mind?
I need to know your name. If I don't know your name.
Okay. My name is, all right. My name is Mr. Ike Morisa.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I'm coming from the platform of Talking Point Radio. And I would like to bring in a different perspective in the discussion that is going on, because we cannot hide under the cloak that there is an open grazing bill or anti-grazing bill going on when we know where it is coming from. I want all of us to know that this business of grazing is an independent personal business. It's not a government business. Government has no business in telling Alaba traders that somebody in Kaduna has to give them land for electronics market. Government has no business in telling somebody in Sokoto that he should give a land for shoemakers in Aba. This is an independent business. What actually is happening? What actually is going on? Why are we not why are we not identifying this problem? The issue of grazing and cattle movement is a personal business of individuals. Just like Igbos go to Lagos and rent houses and rent shops and do their businesses. Other people go to other places and rent shops and do their businesses. Government has no right in this business if there is nothing behind this movement. If there's nothing behind this open grazing deal. So let me make it clear so that we know who are these cattle headers. These are the Fulani herdsmen that are killing people. We must understand this is as clear as day and night. The people that are coming to do this grazing are the Fulani herdsmen that are killing people in Benue, they are killing people in Enugu, they are killing people in Umuahia, everywhere, in Kaduna, in Kano, in everywhere in Nigeria.
Can you quickly round up, please, so that we move on?
So let us not even contemplate the issue of giving them a land where they are going to stay and move their cows by vans or by lorries, because these people are terrorists. You don't have a terrorist in your backyard. Let us not contemplate it at all. I think I love the time you said about leasing of the land is at the priority of the landowners. We don't lease no land anywhere in the southern region. Please, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Again, in conversation, when we converse, we leave room for exigencies and not with finalities. Obviously, the points are well noted. Now, I will be calling back on all the panelists that made their interventions for a 2 minutes summary of their submissions, and having listened to every other person speak and people who have also asked questions, that would also help them to make their interventions. We are rounding up now. However, I can see other people that have raised their hands. I wish and I hope that they have questions, but I would give a max of 1 minute each, okay, so that you can ask your question. I have Ray Chukwuemeka, please. 1 minute. If it's a question or intervention, just be quick. Thank you very much. Ray Chukwuemeka. You've been unmuted. Ray Chukwuemeka, go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. The truth for me remains that unless the rotten tooth is pulled out, the mouth must chew with caution. Is the time our people should rise up and know what is the problem and face it squarely. I'm happy that the governors are making anti-graze laws, which I don't know how they will implement those laws. So we can't deny the fact that the problem that these people are bringing, I mean, those who want open graze law, we can't pretend that we don't know what they intend to do. We know what is happening in Afghanistan, we know all this. So for me, the discussion should be, how do we correct this thing from the root? Not just making law that you know is not going to be implemented. So that's my own take.
Thank you very much.
If we can channel our energy towards correcting the problem, which some people have pointed to be the Constitution, and we go to another election, the same problem will continue. So that's my
okay, thank you very much, Ray. And Bro Chidera, please, you're the last person, then we'll bring back the panelists. Chidera, please, less than a minute. Thank you, go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, go ahead, please.
Yeah, can I ask Uncle Brit a question, please, if she can hear me?
Odem, is the question related to this subject?
Yes.
Then you can ask the question once.
Yeah,
sorry?
My question to her is, I believe she has some, why I'm asking that personal question to her, I like the way she explains certain things. I believe she has seen the news that the president have ordered, I think, a panel or 25 states for where there will be open grazing site or something. No. I can't figure out exactly what he said there. 25 states. Now, Southern, that is the, I think, the chief of staff or something, will be the chairman of the panel. And the Southerners are only writing on pen and paper. How are we going to defend, even if all of the host 917 states sign this to the bill? Are we going to use cassava and the stick to defend the land when those people already in the ground started? That's my question.
Thank you
How is
very
the
much.
governors preparing? Not the paper and just pen and paper, because it will not end there. Thank you.
Thank you. So we will go back again and start by bringing in the panelists to obviously make their intervention. I hope that Professor Chido Swagwu is there. Obviously he has, okay, Professor, I'll bring you back again. Obviously you've had interventions by your co-panelists and by those that have asked questions. So I do not know, how you want to now, because obviously this is your parting shot. Doctor, are you still there? Sorry, Professor? You muted back again. Go ahead and unmute.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, I think what we need to realize is that this thing is not about grazing. It's about control of people's land. And I'm pointing out that the root of loss of people's land is the land use decree, which was not made by the people of Nigeria, but by self-interested people who held power in Nigeria. And that there are laws, international laws, the United Nations law on indigenous people, the African people, and individual laws that says indigenous people have a right to their land, which in Nigeria have been stripped with the land use decree by people who held guns. So the solution is to go to the fundamental of acknowledging that the indigenous peoples of Nigeria have a right to their lands, that the indigenous people of Nigeria have a right to control how and who uses their land, and that the people are not property of this Berlin state, such as Nigeria, which now officially experts like John Campbell, a former ambassador of US to America, who is a friend of the Nigerian establishment, have said technically the Nigerian state is a failed state, which means there is actually no state to protect the people. That's why there's no capacity for law enforcement that we are worried about. If the state was functional, if the state had not failed, then the role of the state is to enforce laws, but it can't. So it is the duty of communities now. They are on their own to protect their land. Why we keep insisting, let us go back and to the basis, restore people's land to by erasing the land use decree, because people can go to any state government, blackmail them, and they sign out their community land without referring to the community, no matter what we write in this thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. And thank you once more for all you do and for sticking to the time. Thank you very much once more. And obviously, Prof pins whatever happening now to the Land Use Act. Again, those were his words. I will be bringing back the second person to address us again. I think because Tony Nwade is there, Anyama Redemption Group. So Tony, if you may quickly unmute yourself and make your own intervention. I think Has Tony left? I have Anthony's Galaxy. I don't know if that's you, but that wasn't the device you used before. Now, in the absence of that, let me quickly get Dr. Akin is not here, and Max Ozaka is also, Esquire is also not here. Then I'll bring back the Amazon of the Niger Delta for her 2 minutes conclusion. Thank you, Briggs. If you may quickly unmute.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Okay, Mazi, since all the people you have called is not are not around, you're still restricting us, Prof and myself, to what 2 minutes. Okay. Now,
okay, don't worry, I'll give you 1 minute extra.
Now, very clearly, I listened to Prof and he mentioned community. Community takes us back to ethnicity, because each community is an ethnic, is identified by their ethnicity, by their language, and whatever the case may be. We have accepted that Nigeria is a democracy, which it is not. We have accepted that what is happening in Nigeria is politics, which it is not. It's a military rule, and from my, and I've been under this now for such a long time, we have accepted that we have a constitution, which we don't, because it only favors one side. We've talked about how are we going to implement the law, but I also remember that for a very long time, people were calling, why can't the governors enact laws? Why can't they enact laws? They've enacted the laws. They are the politicians. We've shouted and they've enacted the laws. Let's not discourage them. I believe that this government knows what it is doing. And we also must let them know that we know what they are doing and that we also know what we are doing. Now, there was a question that was directed at me and saying that defending whatever is not by pepper and by salt. Well, you see, I always believe that no matter who breaks the law, all I can do is point out that you're breaking the law. I don't have to join you to break the law. We're dealing with not just ourselves. All these things we're doing, we're talking for people to hear us. And when people are listening to you, they are also watching to see what is it that you're saying. So if we're saying we want to defend ourselves, that there must be self-defense, and we don't, the capacity to defend ourselves is taken away from us. All we can do is explain it and point it out. Now, this law is enacted. Let us see how this law is being signed into, this bill is now a law for us. Okay, let's take that step forward. Let's see. Are we going to be able to enforce the law? We should just not assume that we're not going to be able to enforce the law. Let us see if we can enforce the law. There is nobody here who does not want to be free. I want to believe, I can't assume for everybody else, but I know that I've never been a conquered person. I survived the Biafra war. The people that paid the price for the war of over 2 million people have also survived the war. So we have to learn from the past so that we can have the future that we want. What is that future? That future for me that we want is that if somebody believes that he must come and take my land, and I don't believe that he can take my land, then I will stand firmly and not allow him to take my land. But how do we go about achieving this? We have to, in my opinion, we have to take it to the next step. What is that next step? We have to begin to take responsibility for our future and our children's future. I don't know, but I'm sure most of you who are in America are watching CNN just the way that I am watching it since this thing started. And believe me, This is just a clear indication that every country, whether it's America, whether it's Britain, Europe, everybody is tired of fighting a war, whether it is for oil of their interests or whatever interest that we believe they have that they want to fight for. Nobody is going to come and fight for us. We have to be prepared to make these sacrifices for ourselves. And if we are expecting only people in Nigeria like me to make those sacrifices, the way I'm talking now, I live in Nigeria, I live in Port Harcourt. So, but I'm speaking the truth, so I'm not afraid. If you call me and ask me, I will explain myself. If you're not happy with it, well, that's just too bad. That's what I believe. So there are a lot of things that people outside of Nigeria also can do, and they also must take those responsibilities. It's not just telling us what to do all the time. It is also they themselves also doing what they know that they can do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was on point. Okay, I would take the opportunity quickly as we are, winding down to get. We don't have our king. We've taken Ankyo Briggs here. You get Austin Okeke back again to see if he has further interventions, and if the moment that is done, we will get Chief Emeka Diwe, who is on ground and who is also the president of Southeastern Unions, to wrap it up, having listened to what every other person has said. Now, Austin, if you may quickly, can you kindly unmute yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mazi, Ezoki, and everyone. I still go back to the enforcement mechanism, the personnel. You will see that the usual suspect has been listed: the police, DSS, civil defense, X-Men, name them. And these are truly foreigners. I think the handicap here is that the federal government has refused to even listen to the debate on state police. And we can go back, look at the laws that are newly passed and see how they can maybe effect amendment and include local people. It is possible to have them as rangers or cattle rangers or whichever way they want to call them, included in that enforcement. Because these people, the usual suspect listed there, are basically foreigners. They don't even know our nooks and crannies. And this enforcement will have to go to trickle down to the local government level, to the community, like our sister has been saying, and Briggs have been saying. We need to do that right away. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much again for straight to the point intervention. Now, I think if Chief Emeka Diwe is ready, we'll bring him on to do the needful here. Then afterwards, I purposely left Dr. Ucheda. I will permit me to refer you to as the expert in the room, so you would have your own time for your own intervention. So it's Chief Diwe, are you ready? Quickly, can you unmute? I think Chief Diwe has left. I can no longer see him there. But be that as it may, can I have Uche Ezi, please? Can you now? You've listened to everything here, and we have basically talked about uniformity of laws, enforcement, and the involvement of the top security brass, and the implementation of this law, if when it gets to land leasing, the details as to 1 year, we have seen that there are states that have passed this law. And there is this clamor when we talk about this, and I keep making this emphasis, there is separation of powers. And when we talk about these things, people by default always refer to the governors, whereas those, with the duties to make these laws are the state assemblies. And in most cases, these state assembly men and women are our siblings, our brothers and sisters. Sometimes we do have closer contacts with them compared to the executives. Therefore, part of what, that's this me now thinking, part of our takeaway should be for those where these laws have not been, done. I'm not saying ignore the governors, but we have a coup priest here. My take would be, what is it that we can say by 1st of September, if these states haven't passed these laws or haven't at least get it to a point where they will now tell us, okay, we have done our job, or it is now on the table of the governor to sign, then we know we have the executives to hold responsible. But in many cases, as it will appear, it appears that the legislators have actually not done the needful. The executives could probably hide behind that. We don't know. But at least to make this advocacy a little bit easier, probably that will be something to consider. So on that note, Uche, as I'm bringing you back here to quickly now summarize, and that would now lead us to the end of this conversation. Thank you very much, Dr. Uche Ezi.
Thank you. Thank you, my brother. As we already know, knowledge is power, right? So creating awareness is actually a very good first step. Now, you make a very good point in terms of we have the state assembly. These individuals, they are relatives, they have phone numbers, call them, put pressure on them, right? And ensure that, the laws that they are passed and is signed, or bills are actually signed into law. And obviously, we've all said the same thing. We have a problem, and the problem, some call it farmers' herders clash, some call it land grabbing, others call it land occupation, ethnic marginalization. Whatever we want to call it, at the end of the day, what we are seeing is a symptom of a problem, right? So if we have a symptom of a problem, the question now is, what is the root cause of this issue? The root cause is lawlessness, right? If lawlessness is the root cause of the problem we're having, then it makes it a whole lot easier to find a way to solve it. First solution is to, one, have the law in place, and second is to enforce it. So lawlessness is one, it could be the lack of law or the lack of will to enforce it, right? So that's why we have these symptoms. Now, what we've done is taking the first step. The first step is having the law created. Now, of course, we've all shared the concerns of enforcement and concerns how this may not necessarily be enforced. Well, let's wait and see. If we find that there's also a lacuna, or we are lacking in the area of enforcing, let's tackle that when we get there. Okay. So far, it's been really great ideas, good questions, brought from everyone. But as Mazi is okay to mention, I would want to encourage us to call your statesman, put that pressure, have that awareness. When you know the law of your land, then you have the will to make the advocacy, and you have the will to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a very fine place to anchor this evening conversation. It has been a conversation in the last 1 hour, 45 minutes. We've been talking about the anti-open grazing law in southern and middle belt of Nigeria. It has been a debate, a discussion, a review of the draft bill. Now, in the course of this, we learned that some states also within the week have also passed this law. I've been discussing with Dr. Uche Ezi, who is based in the United States. Dr. Uche, once more, thank you very much for all the insight. Now, I have also here, we have had a fantastic input from the professor himself, who many of you also have seen, and in many occasions on this platform, that is in the person of Professor Chidi Oswagu, who is a global Igbo leader. Now, we have also here, although he's left, Dr. Tony Wade from the Anioma Redemption Group, Max Ozaka Esquire, who from the Anibo Development Foundation, but sadly, for some technical reasons, he couldn't join us. Also, the same applied to Dr. Akin Fapohunda from the Afani Ferry. But as usual, and she didn't disappoint us, the Amazon of the Niger Delta, Ankyo Briggs, she said something that is very critical. She said, I paraphrase, that if someone is going mad, doesn't mean I should also go mad in terms of this law. I believe we all understood where she was going with that analogy. I think also I did agree on that. From South Africa, we had Austin Okeke Esquire, representing the Igbo Board of Deputies. Austin made his own contributions and also, gave us a point to ponder about and to think, and also for those making this law to take note of. Having said that, we also had the privilege of hearing from Chief Emeka Diwe, the President Association of Southeast Town Union, ASETU, who spoke to us from the ground zero. People, again, it's been a wonderful time to spend with us here. One thing the reason we are doing this is to always trying to enlighten ourselves, have a conversation, deepen the conversation, as the great one who have joined the ancestors, Chinua Achebe, once said, that the act of conversation is that which the Igbos, or rather the south part of Nigeria, takes very seriously. Again, here, as part of those who joined us today, we have Comrade Ifani, Elder Deli Ajufo, Emeka Ignatius Igwe, Ene Oga, Ifunanya Nabugu, Ogwanyi Chidozie, Omama, Omo Fatigun, Paul Ndukwe, Reverend Paul Ndukwe, who is also an ambassador, Ray Chukwemeka, Richie Sydney Diora, Silas Moneke, who joined us from Far East Asia, Sir Joe Madu, and Uche Eze. On that note, I will say thank you very much for being part of this conversation. Again, the family watching us online, if you haven't done so, take this privilege to subscribe to our various platforms, and also make sure you follow us. That whenever we have such conversations, that you'll be among the first to know. Again, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and wherever you're